Mongolia, a land crushed between China and Russia, which bears the remnants of the Earth's fury. 50 million years ago, the land masses of India and Eurasia collided, the force of their meeting casting the Himalayan mountains up above the ground. These mountains trapped moisture behind them, transforming Central Asia from one of the lush jungles that were so common in the ancient world into a drier, more temperate climate. The land still boasted plenty of life, and modern Mongolia is covered with the bones of the mighty beasts that roamed it at this time, including most of the velociraptors we have so far unearthed. About 3 million years ago, further tectonic activity formed more mountains in the area, transforming a large swath of Central Asia into the Mongolian Manchurian grassland, better known to history as the Mongolian steppe. It is unknown who the first people to inhabit Mongolia were, but what is certain is that they had a great artistic tradition which has been left to us across the millennia. Dotting the grasslands and pastures of Mongolia, far away from the denser forests, stand the last legacy of an ancient race. Named deer stones because of the distinctive engravings of red deer which adorn them, 500 of these monoliths stand today, although 500 more have been found in various states of ruin. Although no human remains have ever been found near these stones, they are often surrounded by ancient stone mounds filled with sacrificial horse bones, which have traditionally been used to mark sites of great import. This supports the popular theory that these stones are memorials for great leaders and warriors whose remains had been lost. Regardless of what these stones were used for, it is certain that they were incredibly difficult to create, with some of the larger ones with human faces estimated to have taken close to a year to produce with basic stone and metal tools. The first recognizable nomadic civilization would arise in Mongolia in the 200s BCE, when Xiongnu, the son of a nomadic leader, ordered his father to be killed and built his people into the Xiongnu Confederation. The name Xiongnu or Xiongnu is highly ambiguous and has been used to describe many nomadic peoples of Central Asia. For the purposes of this video, we'll use a more common, if historically controversial name, the Huns. This deeply entwined network of tribal alliances broadly spanned modern Mongolia, Manchuria, and eastern China, with the roaming pastoralist families recognizing no clear borders beyond those of the mountains. Having initially come together in order to resist the expansion of Qing China, the Huns soon became a deadly force in Central Asia. Xiongnu and his sons swept across the steppe, conquering other nomadic unions and converting their leaders into tableware, forcing their uprooted rivals to resettle into the dirt. So powerful were the Huns that when the Qing dynasty fell to the Han leaders had the power to force Han dignitaries to remove all signs of authority from themselves and have their faces tattooed before they approached. These alpha nomad power dynamics soon collapsed, however, and as the Han bloodline flowed away from their noble bagatur, they began to fawn over the Han in a most revolting fashion. Han-style clothing, homes, and weapons became the norm as prominent tribal families clamored for marriages into the Han elite. So desperate were they to mimic their neighbors that they noticed not the signs of a shift in relations, Han fear and respect slowly being eroded by disdain. Nearly 100 years after the Huns' rise to prominence, the Han Emperor decided to do away with his sycophantic neighbors once and for all. Being married to a high-ranking Hun himself, Emperor Wu was in the perfect position to enact a grand betrayal. For years, Wu planned and plotted, urged on by his pro-war advisors, to leverage his wife's connections and move men and material into place for a grand invasion. It all came to a head in 133 BC when Wu invited the Hun leadership to meet him on the field of peace. The Huns came eagerly to meet their allies, never knowing that each step towards Wu's benevolent smile was a step closer to the maw of the beast. Hey! After the botched ambush, Wu launched directly into a full-scale assault. He punched 150,000 troops into the Hun heartlands, mounted on 140,000 horses. Despite their nauseating former worship of their neighbors, the Hun had never forgotten how to fight, and the campaign quickly devolved into a bloodbath on both sides. When the dust settled, the Huns had lost 90,000 men, a crippling blow to a society focused around familial alliances. Rare was the yurt where the elderly, the sick, and the weak did not toil alone, while the bones of their men were left for the eagles. For the Han, however, the campaign went even worse. Unaccustomed to the harsh climate of the steppe and unable to maintain supply lines back to China, thousands of men perished in the freezing winds before ever facing a Hun spear. The Chinese horses, large beasts accustomed to China's lush and fertile plains, dropped like flies. From the 140,000 horses that entered the nomadic heartlands, fewer than 30,000 would return. Despite being bloodied, the Huns were far from out, and they began to coalesce as soon as the Chinese turned tail. Wu knew he'd need to put an end to this, but for the next 20 years his nation was too weak to make a move. Question: what's so special about nomads? Answer: they're nomadic. Yeah, I pulled a sneaky on you. While sedimentary societies sit around in stupid wood sheds waiting to be attacked, the strong and masculine nomad carries his yurt in a horse cart, never staying still for too long. What do you need to fight a people who vanish with the wind before your spears? Horses. Many fast horses who can survive the arid steppes. Luckily, there exists one breed of horse that can do just that. The Fergana horse is a short-maned, long-legged, evil-looking animal. It's also astoundingly fast and tough, capable of cruising the steppes with ease. These horses were so good that they were called heavenly horses, and the people who had them were the kingdom of the heavenly horses. Hey, hand over your heavenly horses. Nay, they're my heavenly horses. Enter the War of the Heavenly Horses. After soundly walloping the pretty pony people, China's protector general, Ban Chao, decided to go assault some nomads. He took his new horses back to the Hun heartlands and conducted an operation to resettle and reintegrate his former foes. Into the fucking ground! What, I can't use that joke twice? Party pooper. Although he failed to completely erase them, the nomadic population was absolutely decimated. A few decades passed, and the last of these once great people faded out as quickly as they had appeared, bringing this chapter of Mongolia's history to an end.